How are we doing today? Good. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm always humbled, really, by the amount of people that attend this specific event, the State of the City address. Not really because of me or anything that I have to say, but really I think it's more of a testament to the people that fill this room, your love for the city of Homewood, and your belief in the city of Homewood. It's such a great place, and we've been blessed this year. We're going to talk about those things in just a few minutes, but I do want to recognize just a few people in attendance today, kind of special guests. I do better holding this thing than I do with this. So first of all, at the Meredith, where'd Meredith go? Meredith is here somewhere. There she is, back there. I want to say how much I appreciate the Chamber and all that you and your board does for the city of Homewood. I won't steal your thunder, but I will say I believe that this is probably the most involved that the Chamber really has ever been in the city of Homewood, in working with not only me but the city council in the direction that we want to see the city go. So it's so nice when you can have another group of neighbors other than your council that's all striving to help us get to a place that we believe is a good place for the city of Homewood. So Meredith, on behalf of the city and the city council, thank you for your leadership and the Chamber and putting on such a great event today. So y'all give Meredith and the Chamber a hand. And at the head table, I just want to start by saying, as a special guest today, I have Lauren Tanner here today. She's had to put up with me over the last couple of days as I prepared my speech, and I appreciate her patience and her willingness to not argue with me over stuff. The last couple of days, she just lets me win. So thank you, Lauren, for being here. JJ, my chief of staff, you all know JJ. JJ's been with me for such a long time. Not only is he my best friend, I would not want to do the job of mayor without him, because I value not only his friendship, but his love of the city. You know, JJ served on the council with me for 8 years. We represented the Edgewood area. And then when I became mayor in 2008, I always tell people JJ quit his real job to come work in the mayor's office. So JJ, thank you. I also special guest today. I have John Gildy. John is over all the ride-outs locations here in the Birmingham area, and he and his family have just moved here, probably not even unpacked yet, but John's here and means an awful lot to me. Next to him is Quanah Martin. Quanah Stevens, sorry, we worked together too long, but Quanah is over Elmwood Cemetery. So you know me, being a funeral director, I got to have some other funeral directors around. So John, I used to think the only reason they invited me to events like this is so at the end somebody could stand up and say, "This concludes the service. You can now return to your cars." So thank y'all for being here. I see my neighbor back there, Kyle Bass. Kyle's with the Homewood Theater. Kyle and I have a competition every year as to who's going to leave the Christmas tree up in the front yard the longest. Kyle won this year because Lauren made me take it down. We're superstitious. We're both Alabama fans. We don't want to take it down to the championship's over. So, good. And, of course, we have our city council members. I'll, in a few minutes, take some time to introduce them. I think, with Hale and Sides, yeah, Tom, Terry, y'all are here. Thank y'all so much for being here. So We'll go ahead and get started. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. Let me just scan one more time. Paul DeMarco, I saw Paul earlier at the back. Paul, thank you for being here. He's always been a huge supporter. So 10 years ago, I stood before this group being first elected, and I was very nervous and anxious and excited. At that point, I really didn't know what I had gotten into. Now that I do know what I've gotten into, I'm still very nervous and anxious and excited. But the one thing I've learned about this group over the years is that you're a group that's genuinely interested in the city of Homewood and how we're doing. And I have the pleasure every year of telling you from my perspective as mayor how the city's doing. I've also learned that over the years that being mayor and doing a mayor's job are two separate things. Being mayor, I get to do a lot of ribbon cuttings, thanks to Meredith. Get to interview on TV, a ton of proclamations every year, but doing a mayor's job is very different. It's those times when I'm not so visible, time spent with department heads developing new and better ways of accomplishing objectives, time spent alone thinking about ways to enhance our city, focus on new ideas, evaluating old ideas, and discussing our city's future with close and trusted friends who will tell me the truth, whether I like it or not. Doing a mayor's job sometimes requires me to look at the big picture first and then focus on the actions that's needed in order to make it happen. So it's why I usually always try to begin projects with the end in mind. So my message to you this afternoon is designed to talk about the past year. How'd we do? But the message also has to include the coming year. Where are we going? The qualities that determine the success of us as leaders and our city remain constant. Character, honesty, civility. And it's more important now that we stand firm and tell people the truth and then always make decisions that affect Homewood in a positive way. Homewood's a very exciting and vibrant city. We've seen tremendous growth over the past few years, and we've certainly been blessed. Hardworking families comprise our city, and like so many others, wants what's best for their family. Our neighbors are trying to make a good living, trying to raise their family. They want the best education for their children. And many are running profitable businesses, and it's incumbent on us as leaders to help with that endeavor. We have a school system that is second to none, and many families pay a tremendous price to live in Homewood because of our school system. Now, I'm not sure, is Dr. Cleveland here today? Have we seen him? I didn't. Well, Bill's a friend of ours, and as you well know, the superintendent of our education system. But Bill, he continues to lead our school system along with our board, who I believe that their character is unmatched. And because of them, our children have the distinct privilege and opportunity to learn from the finest facilities, from some of the finest educators, and for that we're grateful as well. So if you would, give our school system a round of applause. But we have a lot to be thankful for. I believe we have the finest police department and the finest fire department in the country. Every day, the brave men and women of both departments put their own lives in jeopardy to protect us. And I know that firsthand because this year in particular, I've received several 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls from our chief to say we've had something involving, we'll just say, critical nature of one of our officers. It takes a special person to be a police officer, and it takes a special person to be a firefighter. So I would say thank you to all of you for what you do each and every day. And I started doing this a few years ago, kind of introducing some facts about our police department and the fire department. Most people seem to enjoy it. When I get these numbers in, I'm always amazed at the amount of calls that they run on. So you've already met Chief Ross, but Chief, I am going to ask you to stand just to represent your department while I talk for just a second about your activity this year. This past year, the men and women of the Homewood Police Department answered the call 39,395 times. 39,395 times. And as a result, arrests were up 33%, burglaries down 20%, robberies down 12%, and 29% from 15. Rape is down 55%, and since 2015, the unlawful and entering of vehicles is down 14%. And that's the direction that I intend on us continuing. Our police officers made over 16,000 traffic stops for the second consecutive year. They issued 12,307 tickets, a 7% increase from 2016, and a 34% increase from 2015. Now let me just say this. I think that's about the year you came in as chief, wasn't it? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Well, so here's what I appreciate about Tim. Tim and I share a basic mentality that I don't really care if you get a ticket or not. But if you're speeding through Homewood and you're doing things that you shouldn't be, we're going to make contact for several different reasons. Number one, to let you know we didn't really like that. But secondly, is because it lets people see that our police officers are out in the neighborhood. And I think as a direct result, and we've talked about this many times, that when people are riding through our city and they see officers making contact with vehicles, they know we're out. And I think those statistics help. You can follow the statistics. Arrests are up and all the other categories are down. So Chief, I can't thank you enough for your vision. Tim is, I hear some of the guys say he's a policeman's chief because he's out there with the guys and the girls, and I can't thank you enough. So publicly, on behalf of the City of Homewood, I just want to say thank you, Chief, for the job that you and the Homewood Police Department are doing. Thank you. Chief President, if I can get you to stand and represent our fire department. Our fire department last year responded 4,215 times. 67% of the time, or a little over 2,800 times, it was for medical emergencies. And thankfully, only 2% of the time to actual fires. Their actual response time last year was 6 minutes and 14 seconds. From the time that the call came in to they arrived on scene. 6 minutes and 14 seconds. An incredible achievement when you consider the most popular time for them to be called was between the hours of 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. Now, I don't know about you, but if you call me at 2 in the morning, I don't care what's going on, chances are I'm not going to be there in 6 minutes and 14 seconds. Because I can't find my keys. I don't know where my glasses went. I'd get in the truck and say, I forgot the fire hose. Chief, you guys and girls do a tremendous job. They spent a total of 62,044 hours conducting training in fire suppression, EMS operations, technical rescue operations, and hazardous material operations. They also performed maintenance on and painted 697 fire hydrants around the city and tested over 21,000 500 feet of hose. That's 4 miles of hose. And if that wasn't enough, they also performed approximately 3,120 business inspections, 240 pre-fire planning visits to numerous schools, churches, and businesses. So, Chief, I appreciate your attentiveness to the city, that your ability to have the men and women of the Homewood Fire Department ready, even when maybe only 2% are actual fires. I know we have the best crew in the world show up when that incident occurs. So again, on behalf of the city, thank you to you and your department for all you do for the city of Homewood. I'm so grateful really for all my department heads. They're an incredible team who work hard for you every single day. Our planning and engineering department works hard to ensure plans coincide with our master plan. Our IT department, James Yates is here somewhere. James works to make sure information flows smoothly between departments. Wyatt's here, leads a team of inspectors making sure our buildings and homes are safe. Our fleet maintenance, Gordon's here, reluctantly. Look, anybody that knows it, Gordon's over our fleet maintenance, and I love the guys over there because they're kind of tucked out of the way. You never really see what they do, but I can promise you what they do is very important. If they didn't do their job, then when our police and fire jumped in the vehicles, they wouldn't operate. But you know, on snow days and inclement weather, these guys come in and sleep on cots to be there. I can't thank you enough for all that you do to keep our fleet and rolling stock safe. They've even implemented a thing now if our police officers are in a chase, doesn't matter if it's 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon, those guys are going to come in and inspect every one of our police vehicles to make sure that nothing happened in that chase that would keep them from going back out on patrol. So they come in at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning if that's when they're needed to inspect vehicles to make sure they're safe. So Gordon, thank you to you and your team for what you do. Y'all met Berkeley a few minutes ago, but so thankful to Berkeley Squires and our park board for working hard to ensure our children have places to play, and to the library board, Debbie's back there in the back. Debbie Fout has continued the tradition Homewood has enjoyed by keeping our library name not only one of the finest in Jefferson County, but in the state of Alabama. Debbie and her team had over 463,000 visits to our library this past year. Total collection use was over 667,000. The library had 1,294 programs this past year, attended by nearly 63,000 people. Over 1,500 children participated in the summer reading program, and the public held over 3,300 meetings at our library. And in addition to these great stats, our library received the second gold standard award for excellence. I believe we are the only library in the state of Alabama to ever have that. And consequently, Debbie was named the 2017 Eminent Librarian for the state of Alabama, the highest award a librarian can receive. So y'all give Debbie a big round. Thank you, Debbie. John Morgan, John's our magistrate, and he couldn't be here today. I think the flu got him as well. But John serves as our magistrate, does an excellent job maintaining and operating our court system. And then Melody Salter. Melody's up here at the front. Melody serves as both our city clerk and our finance director. She, along with her staff, has worked with me tirelessly to get our city back in the best financial shape it's seen in years. Today, I can honestly say I have a team of accountants, and I think we have a whole table full of them over here. Thank y'all for being here. But they work hard not only to provide my office with accurate information, but to the council as well. It's important they're comfortable with the numbers given them so they can make good financial decisions for the city. The process takes a great deal of work and time and effort, and there are literally hundreds of line items ranging from electricity to dog food for our canines. The process has steadily progressed, and we've been tracking expenses and revenues for a long time now. And I never move funds from one line item to another without council approval, really for two reasons. Number one, it keeps all our finances above board, ensuring everyone is informed. And two, it gives us an accurate reflection and history of that line item from both mid-year and year-end review. So when I present my proposed upcoming budget to the council, I can give them a 3-year history on every single line item in the budget, making it easy for a council person or a resident to understand why the proposed funding is being requested. I take a great deal of pride in presenting the budget to my neighbors serving on the council, because I believe our budget addresses much more than funding. It represents character, honesty, and the intended direction of this city. The council has always trusted my budgets, and we work very hard making sure we never give them a reason not to trust it. It's been said that government does not produce revenues, it consumes it. But I'm happy to report that since becoming mayor in 2008, this city has ended every single year with a surplus, meaning that our expenses have never exceeded our revenues. It hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it. And by completing each year with a surplus, employees don't have to fear losing their jobs. Capital projects continue, and it's proof to the residents that they have a government that can and will work within a budget. The book of Proverbs tells us where there's no vision, the people perish. So I'd take this opportunity to thank the Homewood City Council for supporting me and believing in my vision to lead this city. By working together, we'll continue to enhance our vision, enhance our unity, and promote ideas that will enhance the livability and workability of this city. And we have our council in attendance today, and I'm going to ask them, instead of just standing at your table, I would like, Mr. President, if you can bring the council up and face everyone. I want to introduce you to our city council. And so it's not so awkward them walking. Give them a hand while they come up. We have President Limbaugh, Councilman Higginbotham, Alex Wyatt, Peter Wright, Barry Smith, Britt Thames, and Jennifer Andrus. So this is not all of our city council members. We have a few that are out, but I will say, Peter, a special thank you for you making an effort to be here. Many of you may not know, but Peter lost his mom last week. So our thoughts and prayers have certainly been with you and your family. Thank you for being here. But I just wanted y'all to see the group that I get to work with all the time. You always hear about there always been this huge conflict between mayors and city council. I've never really understood that. It's almost like saying you can't get along with your neighbors. And I think that's why it works so well for us in particular, is that I get to work with a group of neighbors that just happen to live in certain sections of Homewood. But they all do a great job representing their neighbors in their districts. And I've known all of them for a long time. So unlike some mayors who are possessive of a budget, I kind of view my council as a safety net, basically. I want them, if I make a mistake on a line item or a budget, I want them to say something. Because while we're preparing that budget, now's the time to do that. So we don't get in and argue and fuss and fight about too many different things. We might have different opinions, but that's great. If we all had the same opinion, then one of the other 11 could stay home. But I think they all bring a certain amount of expertise in different areas to the city, and it just certainly helps my job as mayor. And I'll probably say, I don't know, Walter's not here today, but he chairs finance. Some of you are on finance, but we probably had one of the quickest round of committee meetings for budget, getting the budget passed. There's no shutdown in Homewood. So again, I just want to publicly say how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate your families for allowing you to serve, because we do spend a lot of time at City Hall in meetings, but when the evenings are over, I believe that we always make decisions that Homewood's just a little better off when we go home than it was when we got there. So thank you so much for your service, and we'll let y'all return. But y'all give them, our council, a round of applause. So I'll say that the state of the city of Homewood is excellent. It's strong and getting stronger each day because of the businesses here working hard to provide what people want, and because you still have a government in place that refuses to spend more than it brings in. It's good business, it's good government, and it's the only way that I'll be a part of it. And I'll say too that for the past few years I've started, Steve, doing a slide presentation that kind of puts all this in perspective. If you're like I am, some things are just so much easier to see than to hear. So we want to do that again this year. But these slides start having more and more stuff on it. Melody, Robert, who did it? Okay. All right. Bischoff, don't let me step off the end of this thing. If I do, the only thing just let me get up before you laugh. So here's just a little review of our 2016-17 fiscal year. I'm not going to read every word on every slide, but at the beginning of the year, council approved using almost $2.3 million in a carryover fund balance to help us balance the budget. Actual preliminary pre-audited operating results show the city will complete the 17 fiscal year without using this revenue source and finishing with a surplus of approximately $360,000. Now that's after funding $323,000 in employee bonuses and transferring $500,000 to the capital projects fund. The city increased sales tax by 1% in January of 17. Increased sales tax revenue approximately $5 million for the partial 16-17 year, and the streams budgeted to be over $8 million for 17-18. Steve, is this thing in focus, or I just need new reading glasses? Reading glasses? Okay. So here's a review of our past few years since 2009. This shows our fiscal year-end surpluses that's added to the fund balance of the general fund. I'm going to let you read over that, and I'll point out a couple of things. So as I said earlier, we've had a surplus every single year. Talk about a couple of things here. The bonuses. Total in surpluses over 9 years, averaging just over $750,000 a year. Can we go back to that one? So let me tell you why I think that's important. In 2008, and it took us some time to get some things implemented, as the numbers show. But we had some programs that just wasn't working. We had, by no fault of their own, it's just kind of the way government's always worked. So you wouldn't expect anybody to be doing anything differently. If one department ran out of money, it was okay because another department hadn't spent all their money, and so there's still kind of money in the pot, if that makes sense. And so when I say what I'm about to say, I want you to know that all my department heads are on board with this, and this is how they now operate, and do an excellent job. So when I came in, that didn't make a lot of sense to me, to you run out of money and then go borrow from someone else. So what we said is we're basically going to treat each department as a business. Police is a business, fire is a business, street and sanitation, fleet maintenance, it's a business. At the end of the year, I expect you to run a profitable business. Don't worry, I don't need fleet maintenance worrying about what's in the police fund, and vice versa. I need you to focus on your business. So at the end of the year, guess what happens is if everyone does that? Police has a surplus, fleet maintenance has a surplus, street and sanitation has a surplus. If everybody does that, what happens at the end of the year? You have a surplus. Another thing I think was very helpful is instead of paying people just because they had hung around for a long time, I wanted bonuses tied with actual productivity. I needed employees to buy into the fact that if our city was going to be successful, then I thought our city could give back in the way of bonuses, and we could share part of those profits. So you can see that over the past few years, what's been happening. We've been paying out 323, 375 for a couple of years, money back to the employees, rewarding them for helping us get a surplus. Because now they don't just leave the garbage trucks running. Now they don't intentionally break because they're mad. Now they come to their department heads during the year and say, we believe we've got a better way of doing this. And we can certainly make changes in the middle, change directions if it helps us, if it provides a better service, saves us money, then our city in the end wins. So our most valuable asset really in the city are our employees. So I appreciate all that they've been able to do, and it's really just been a mindset, really, about why do our employees come to work and what do they do? And why is Homewood going to be any different than any other city? We're all municipalities, but what makes us different? And I think it's the leadership of our department heads and having employees who are willing to come in and do jobs every day that's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world, but to do it with a glad heart. So they're probably tired of hearing me say this, but I talk all the time that literally, if Jesus could kneel at the feet of his disciples and wash their feet to show service and humility and humbleness, surely we can answer a telephone. Surely we can justify the books. Surely we can pick up the garbage or put out a fire or pull somebody over for speeding. Not asking you to wash anybody's feet, but provide a service. And when employees kind of get that willingness to serve and understand that they are appreciated, I think that kind of exudes out into the community. And that's what they've done. And we couldn't be the city that we are, no matter who the mayor or who the council is, without our employees and what they do for our city, because they represent us and they come into contact with a lot more people than we have an opportunity to every day. Although I do say I can get more done in the produce section of Piggly Wiggly than I can at City Hall. So, Steve, you've already changed it, haven't you? So here's just our cash balance on hand as of November 30th, 2017. General fund checking, 3.6 million. Public investments, see it with different banks, Bryant, Iberia. 7-cent gas tax, 708,000. Debt service, 9.2 million. Escrow at Regions, 32,000. Our capital projects, 4.7 million. Melody being the accountant, she loves to make notes on these things. Steve? E911, corrections, sales tax funds, special courts, general obligation warrants, 16 construction fund, Raymond James, a little over 103 million in it. We got our public safety, park, pool, Board of Education. So our cash distributed to the Board of Education, General Fund, Debt Service Fund after November 30th of 17, just north of 152 million. General Fund budget revenues, a little over 50 million. We got our budgeted use of fund balance, 85,000, which will certainly make that up. So we're always going to finish with a surplus, but as always, I need the council and my department heads to help me do that. Steve? Some ongoing capital projects, the Lakeshore I-65 Diamond Interchange, that's still in the works. Continued new sidewalk construction and ADA compliance of existing sidewalks. Our Greenway 2 construction, 18th Street renovation, and then of course continuing the paving in the city. So we've passed a 2% COLA for all the full-time employees. Council approved a 3% increase in our lodging tax. That'll be effective February 1st. We estimate that that'll bring in about $1 million a year in revenue. We'll continue in our construction of West Homewood Park and Pool, which I'll talk about that in a second. In December of 17, City refunded part of a 2012 bond issue, which will result in, saved our city about $680,000. So money saved is money earned. This money we won't have to pay back. New development coming to the former Mountain Brook Inn, and then of course the Homewood Hotel development. Is that the last one, Steve? Good. Thank you for getting those up there for me. So, you know, I'm really proud of those numbers, and not really just because of the surplus, but because of what it represents when community leaders can work together for some pretty amazing results. There may be some things that we have to apologize, but we've never had to apologize for being fiscally irresponsible. It's a nice feeling, isn't it, Mr. President? As you saw in the presentation, there's some exciting things happening in the way of opportunities. One of the things I wanted to announce that I've proposed a road swap with ALDOT, exchanging West Lakeshore Parkway for Green Springs Highway. I believe we've almost reached an agreement with ALDOT, and if the council approves once they see that, we'll be able to do it. I think it's going to play very well because of that I-65 interchange. That's the first interchange like this in the state of Alabama that ALDOT's approved for us. But if we can swap that for Green Springs, I think it's really going to help our businesses along Green Springs, because as you know right now, Green Springs is a state highway. So the city really has no say in landscaping and lighting and ingress and egress into certain businesses, well, any of the businesses over there. So hopefully if we can get that agreement done, I think that Green Springs corridor can not so much be such a dividing line in our city, but really a gateway and a really nice thoroughfare into our city. And I think it'll completely change the look of Green Springs. We're on schedule for our new public safety facility in West Homewood, the $6 million aquatic center at Patriot Park, along with the addition of Gianmarco's newest restaurant, the pizzeria over there, will make tremendous improvements to our West Homewood area. Bricktop Restaurant, very upscale restaurant. That's who's going to occupy the old Mountain Brook Inn site, and Homewood will be their first site in the state of Alabama. Brookwood Mall continues to bring in new tenants, and Wildwood's now being redeveloped. Wells Fargo campus has been renamed as Patriot Midtown Park, and JJ and I have been in discussions with some brokers to bring in some new tenants to that area, further boosting our economy in Wildwood. And lastly, new ball fields are being built in West Homewood. The amount of kids that we have in the city of Homewood right now are just staggering. So I think Berkeley was telling me just basketball alone had over 700 kids had signed up. Our pool, we're having on average about 600 kids a day during the summer. We're certainly in need of the new ball fields, and then the council and I have committed another $350,000 for improvements to Spring Park in Rosedale. Some people ask, what kind of principles lead you as mayor? And to be honest, I think it's pretty simple. There are two main components. One is effort, and the other is what some of you have heard me speak on, the matchbox rule, which is really about managing financially. And I've used the analogy before, but I'll do it again to emphasize the importance of effort. At 211 degrees, water's just hot. At 212 degrees, it begins to boil. Boiling water produces steam, and steam can move locomotives. So it's not the 211 degrees that count, it's that one extra degree that makes the difference. Not doing one thing 100% better, but 100 things 1% better. And I'll say that to me, this is the time for that extra degree and that extra percent of service. It's the time for that extra degree and that extra percent of cooperation. It's time for that extra degree and that extra percent of attitude. Just 1%, 1 degree, it'll make a huge difference. And then the matchbox rule, it's really matchbox car. It's just a reminder for me. How many of you had matchbox cars when you were little? When I was growing up, they were 99 cents. Our house, we had an acre. And I had the privilege of mowing that acre every week for $1. And I was so excited when I made my first dollar. And I thought, so I told my dad, I said, I'm ready. At the time, all we had was a Woolco. Anybody remember Woolco? Okay, there was no Walmarts that we knew of. So we go to Woolco. I was ready to go to Woolco to get a Matchbox car, except my dad informed me that I didn't have enough money to get the Matchbox car. And I said, well, yes, sir, I do. I made $1. They're 99 cents. And he said, you forgot tax. So at the time, I think tax was a nickel, which made it $1.04. Now, most parents would have given their kid the 4 cents, but my mom and daddy didn't. They said, you can save your $1. When you work next week, then you'll have enough to go buy it. So they started teaching me at an early age that you pay cash for things. You don't borrow, and you don't expect people to give you anything. That if you want something, you go out and you work for it. You save your money, and once you do that, it's yours. That lesson probably has served me as well as anything else in my life, because it's the way I run my business, it's the way I run my home, it's the way I run the city. I appreciate those values and I didn't think I had really nice parents back then. But the older I get, the more I appreciate the things that they taught me by doing just those kinds of things. So I believe that public service is not important to promote yourself. What is important are the results. So I'll say today, one of the main reasons we've been successful in Homewood this past year is because of people like you here in this room. Your attitude toward Homewood, the businesses you operate, the emphasis we all place on our school system, and these things make a huge difference. And I don't think you have to necessarily be a mayor. I don't think you have to be a councilman. I don't think you have to be an elected official to make a positive impact. After all, it's what we do, not who we are. It's what we do, not who we are, that makes the difference. You may be a nurse who holds a patient's hand before or after surgery, a minister who prepares a sermon and visits the sick, a teacher investing time with our children, teaching them to count, or you may be a mom or dad attending another event involving your child. Either way, it's the small things added together that make Homewood home. It's been said that when people are serving, life is no longer meaningless. And I appreciate all the small acts of kindness that each of you share every day with someone. I'm grateful we have employees, residents, and businesses who instinctively do the right thing and go about their day leading a quiet life of service. The Bible says in part that love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It's not rude, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, and keeps no record of wrongs. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and it always perseveres. Love never fails. Thanks to all of you for loving Homewood, and thank you for allowing me to serve a small part as mayor. And it's been said that we have an aggressive agenda, and that's true. But Homewood won't sit back and be complacent with where we are. It's been said that the safest place for ships is in the harbor, but ships are made for sailing, and so is Homewood. And my prayer continues to be that God keeps a protective hedge around our city, that Homewood is safe, and that we continue to prosper. And I offer that same prayer for you, those of you in this room today. That 2018 may be prosperous for you, and like my example of boiling water, may you give that one extra degree this year to improve the quality of life, not only for you, but for those around you. Thank you for being here. May God bless you, and may God bless the city of Homewood. Thank you.